Everybody. Happy Wednesday. How is everybody doing today? Waiting for Lianne. I'm so excited by today. It's an interesting new dwarf planet we're going to talk about. It's middle of the week. There she is. Awesome. It works.
Hi.
Good morning.
How
Good
are
morning,
you,
Lianne.
Yasmin?
Good, thank you. How are you doing today? How is in UK?
I'm fine, thanks. The weather, I'm in the north of the UK, so the weather's not great. It's really
Oh,
disappointing, really disappointing. So it's extremes, isn't it? We're having a really rubbish summer, and then
yes.
you've got the heat waves in Europe and Canada and China. Oh, yeah.
Here is the same thing. Yeah, I'm in Canada, and it's just been a little bit of stormy rain, then a little bit of sun. There's
Yeah.
nothing, you can't plan anything for a week. It's just been
No,
one of
no,
those
there's no,
summers.
no consistency. The
Yeah,
weather is just all over the place. I'm just going to
yeah,
adjust this. There, that's a
yeah.
bit better.
Which brings me to this today's topic. I like this topic. Before we start, I just want to welcome you and thank you for taking your time. I know you're
You're
busy to do this live
welcome.
with me to introduce people with the new dwarf planet. Who Everybody, if you don't follow Lianne, here is her link. You can just click follow. She has great content and she's very accomplished astrologer in the UK, very known. So thank you so much for today. And introduce us. I heard just a little bit about it. I don't know much, but I know it's connected with nature. That's all I know. So,
Okay, okay. There's loads to talk about. So what I'll
Mhm.
do, I'll sort of explain a little bit about the dwarf planet, then I'll talk a bit about the mythology, and then I'll talk about how we can use it in our natal charts, and also from a mundane perspective, because
Okay.
whenever we're looking at planets, they need to be real. What do they mean to
Mhm.
us? And that's so important. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll understand a little bit more about Haumea and how it can be useful to you. Because astrology
Exciting.
has to be useful. I've got a Capricorn rising moon. It has to be useful, you
Oh,
know.
yes. Okay.
Um,
I got it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when we're talking about dwarf planets, okay, we've got 5 dwarf planets. We've got
Mhm.
Pluto, Ceres. People often think Ceres is an asteroid because it's in the asteroid field, but it's a dwarf planet.
Wow.
We have Haumea, we have Eris, and then we have Maki, which is spelt, it's written make, but pronounced
Uh,
Maki. And
okay.
that's another Polynesian deity. But I'll leave that till the end. Perhaps I might squeeze a bit of that in
Okay.
as well.
I love that.
Um,
But they kind of go together, right? They sometimes go
they
together.
do. They very much do. They very much do. And what I'd like to say, just in case I forget, what I've done, I've written an article about Haumea and Maki, and I've wrapped it around the Oppenheimer theme, because we're all talking about Oppenheimer and Trinity, which was the first nuclear explosion. So I've written an article on that, and as soon as we finish here, I'm going to download that, upload that. It'll be live on my website, so you can all go and read about what I'm talking about today. All
Perfect.
right?
What a timing. I love
Yeah,
it. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so
absolutely.
much. It's an extra gift, guys.
Yeah,
Extra gift. Perfect.
yeah.
Awesome.
So Haumea, where is it? Where is it in space? So it's in the same area as Pluto. It's
Mhm.
trans-Neptunian, it's out there, around Pluto, and it has a very similar orbit to Pluto. So Haumea takes around, on average, 300 years to make full
Okay.
orbit of the sun. But like Pluto, it has an elliptical orbit.
Mhm.
It's not a round orbit. Yeah. So
So,
sometimes it
so,
spends
so,
long.
yeah. That means that sometimes it's longer in one sign and it's
Yeah,
shorter in the other.
it can
Okay.
be like a little bit of an egg shape orbit.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that means that it can spend longer in one sign than another. You know, we know Pluto can spend, what, 12 years in a sign, and then it can spend 25 years in a sign.
Yes.
Haumea is very, very similar to that, okay? But on average, it's around 25 years in each sign. So it's a generational planet, like Pluto.
Okay.
Very much a generational planet. And when I come to talk about the natal chart, I'll explain a little bit more about how we should use it, all right?
Awesome.
So what's really special about Haumea, because although it has a very long orbit, it rotates very, very fast. You know, the Earth rotates, it's 24 hours for the Earth to rotate. It takes Haumea 4 hours to rotate. So it's spinning really, really fast.
Oh my God.
And therefore, it's like a dynamo. It's constantly producing energy, spinning round and round and round. And Haumea is full of creative output. It's a vast source of energy in our charts and creative output. And I'll explain.
I like that because it spins fast. Yeah. That's where we produce an energy a lot.
Yeah,
it's
like a dynamo in engineering, or electricity, that type of thing. Absolutely. But then now, if we move more to like the mythology and look at that, so we're moving away from the Greek and Roman gods here, because Haumea is a Polynesian god. She's mother goddess of Hawaii. Okay. If we think about the Polynesian gods, you know, what's the difference between them and Roman or Greek gods? Because we work with the Roman and Greek archetypes all the time, don't we?
Yes.
And if you think the Roman and Greek gods, they were very much into personal and financial gain, and whatever served their existence. They were quite happy to go and plunder whatever whatever.
It was all about power.
About power. Absolutely. Yeah. But if we think about Polynesia itself, the first humans migrated there around 2,000 years ago, people think, and they came across the sea. They had to navigate across the sea to get to Polynesia, and they became masters of seafaring and navigation, but they're incredibly tied into the earth and the environment. You know, the Polynesians believe that everything, humans, the earth, animals, objects, all contain a supernatural power called mana power. It's like a spiritual power. And, that power can be either good or evil, but it's power nonetheless. And we'll find out that with Haumea and Makemake, that gods can be light and shadow, good and evil too, can't they? And all our planets, they're all, points of power in our chart, but they can all be light and shadow, sometimes good and evil, can't they? But I think with the Polynesian gods, and because the Polynesians are so tied into nature, they're one with the earth, very much centered around being equal and part of the earth rather than apart or above or abusing it. Yeah.
I'm thinking they have to be, because they're so isolated. They have to be, otherwise they wouldn't survive, right?
Yeah, they're so tuned into the spirit and soul of nature, and therefore they're less materialistic, which we could maybe label the Greek and Romans as, perhaps, to do with their power and materialistic gain. The Polynesians aren't like that. So when we're talking about these sort of dwarf planets, Haumea and Makemake, they're very much tied into nature. And therefore, we often see them prominent in charts of climate change activists.
Yes.
There's a fabulous activist. She was born in New Zealand, but I think she actually lives in Polynesia now. She's called Brianna Fruin, and I actually saw her at one of the COP conferences back in Glasgow a couple of years ago. She looks Polynesian. She's got the Hawaii flowers in her hair. She's stunning. And she gave the most beautiful talk for climate change. And, you know, she's got Haumea in this yod with Mercury. You know, Brianna has Mercury in Taurus to a yod with Haumea and Pluto. And I thought she is the voice of nature. You know, Taurus is very much about our resources and nature. And I looked, and she just gave the most beautiful talk, you know. So she's the most beautiful.
Sorry, Taurus is also about our voice. You know, how the Taurus rules the... Right, so it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And she had this Hawaiian flower in her hair, and I thought, I'm just watching how Haumea speaking, you know. And of course, Greta Thunberg, we all know Greta. She has Haumea in her chart as well. But Greta's a very different type of speaker. She's a warrior with words. She gets really angry and really behind it. So doesn't embody Haumea as much as this other Brianna Fruian. But you know, if we talk about the myth of Haumea, because you know the myths of gods always help us understand how to interpret them. So I said Haumea is mother goddess to Hawaii, to the island itself, but also all the other Hawaiian gods, especially Pele, the volcano goddess, who is Haumea's daughter. And just picture a volcano spewing lava from the land, and then the lava, it flows down the mountain, cools, and it forms new land. It's birthing new land. And it's spectacular. And it's the earth giving birth, isn't it? Yeah?
Absolutely. It's beautiful. I'm just picturing it in my head. It's so beautiful. Yeah, it's shaping the new land from that.
Absolutely.
Literally.
And the energy behind that, and the fire, and it's creating new land, but it can be incredibly destructive too. You know, volcanoes kill people. It's incredibly disruptive. But Haumea is the midwife of nature, and in the myth, she's an old woman, but then she periodically turns into a young girl, and she gives birth to babies from every part of her body. She's constantly giving birth, so therefore ensuring future generations. So she's very evolutionary, incredibly creative. You know, giving birth is very, very creative. It's a very fiery thing. You know, if we think into the natal chart, we associate Leo with children.
Yeah, I was just going to say creativity. Yes, and with all this energy, I'm thinking how fast she's spinning in the sky.
Yeah.
You know, she can produce a lot. Yes, exactly.
And if we think about creativity, of course, it's about children continuing on future generations, ensuring life continues. But it can be about any creative project, you know, it can be about writing projects, artistic projects, anything that we create, you know, so any form of creativity that we have in our charts. And that's very Leo sun, isn't it? You know?
Absolutely.
So, you know, she's very evolutionary. But if you think the imagery, it's quite similar to Pluto as well. It's about life and death. If you think about that volcano, it's given birth, but it can kill as well. And that's Pluto. It's very sort of life and death. So Haumea is quite a double-edged sword. She's the matriarch of creativity, but also of destruction. You know, a double-edged sword. And I'll give you some examples of this in a minute.
I'm just thinking, you know, if she's out of control, then she kind of destroy it. But if she's in tune with her heart, you know how you can always, but if you're in tune with it, you can kind of tame it. You can tame it. Otherwise, if you're out of control, then you destroy it. Like you're thinking about being angry, you know, it just in our lives, when we don't control our anger, we just destroy with words, with whatever. But if we tame that,
Absolutely. And you know, and I sometimes look at a volcano and think it's an angry earth, you know, it's exploding, there's pressure
Yes.
underneath and it's an angry Earth. So yeah, there's definitely that to it as well. But Haumea, the dwarf planet, and Makemake, they were discovered just after the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. You know, when over, quarter of a million people were
I know
killed in
that.
Indonesia with the horrendous tsunami. And of course, you know, it was the wave that wiped everyone out. But the wave was caused by an earthquake under the sea. You know, the Earth was, you know, those tectonic plates were, rising, creating the tidal wave. So, you know, we're talking of a fine line with Haumea, a balancing act between creation and destruction. And if any of you want to go and have a look at Haumea's discovery chart, it's on astro.com. You know, all the planetary discovery charts are on there. I love looking at the discovery charts of planets. They tell us so much. And Haumea was discovered, she was in Libra, conjunct Jupiter. So everything with Haumea is on a big scale, okay? You know, that tsunami was on a big scale because she was conjunct Jupiter when she was discovered. But she was in Libra as well. And Haumea's discovery chart, it's very air-fire, very, very air-fire. So whenever we're seeing events that are perhaps heating the air up, it's Haumea. So we can, you know, we're sort of really focused on the atmosphere being heated up. You know, that's air fire. So, but I'll give you an example of that sort of in a little bit. But just before I leave sort of the mythology behind, if you go and look at the glyph of Haumea, you know, you'll see that on my website if you want to go and have a look, or you can just look yourself somewhere. We've got 2 circles of spirit and 2 crescents. So it's very much the spirit and soul of nature. Okay. Yeah, the planetary glyphs tell us so much too. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want to ask any questions? Because I know I'm just talking.
No, I love this. It's like being on a workshop and lecture. You did it. You're doing it. I don't know. I love listening to you. You're just full of it, because I'm a Gemini. I have Gemini moon and Mercury and Sun, and I'm just soaking all this information. I love it because I don't know anything. I just know a little bit. I knew it was, you know, but this is now bringing more awareness and consciousness about you. I'm just enjoying your. So please continue. I'm enjoying it so much.
No, that's fine. So how can we use Haumea in the natal chart? Yeah. So. Yeah, a vast source of creativity, of course. And I don't mind sharing this, but I have Haumea square my natal Mercury at the minute. Okay. And I am all my Mercurial energy is just massive at the minute. I'm just pushing content out everywhere. You know, I have a very Mercurial job anyway. I'm a tutor for the Mayo School of Astrology. I'm a full-time astrologer. You know, it's very Mercurial.
It's about about teaching others and absolutely.
But I'm pushing out loads of content. I've just finished writing a novel, which I'm going to be pushing to get published. Okay, and I'm
amazing.
I know I'm learning a new language as well, and I know.
I saw on your website. It's Japanese, right? I saw it on your website.
I'm now learning Japanese. Okay. Oh, where is it transiting at the minute? Haumea is at 28 Libra at the minute, so it's tied into that nodal ingress, which I'll come to. Yeah.
Wow. So we all have. We have Haumea in Libra. The generations from the last how long?
I'm not sure when it ingressed Libra. Let me have a look. I'll have it here probably. Haumea ingressed Libra in 1992. It was so it's been in Libra since 1992 until this year. It's about to move into Scorpio, and then before that, Haumea in Virgo.
Virgo. So that probably I have it nasally in Virgo. I probably it's 25 years. Yes. Okay. So mine is in Virgo somewhere. Okay. Cool.
So what was I saying? So I'm talking about that at my sort of mercurial content at the minute, the energy is just massive. You know, innately, I have Mercury conjunct Mars and sextile Pluto, so my
Oh
brain
my
never switches off
God.
at tense. Yeah, and now I've
I
got
love it.
then how May how May is squaring that, so it's just like bang, 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 and it's like the content. I'm just turning it over, turning it over. But then if we take a famous example, because I don't just want to talk about me, Taylor Swift, you know,
Okay.
incredible singer, performer, songwriter. She never stops working. And the content she keeps churning out, album after album after album, it's absolutely incredible. She has Haumea sextile, her natal Mars in Scorpio. It's a 1 degree orb, very, very tight sextile. She never
Mm.
stops. You know, the energy in a Scorpio Mars is intense, and it's sextile Haumea. She has Haumea trine Venus in Aquarius. And of course, all her
Yeah.
music's about relationships and the pain of the relationship. She's quite scorpionic when she writes. There's lots of things about revenge and, you know, pain
Yeah,
and
yeah,
hurt, that type of thing. And then, you know, when we look at Taylor Swift's chart, unfortunately, we don't have a time of birth, so we can't talk houses or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But she, if you look at her chart, it looks like a Sagittarius sun is unaspected, right? But then put Haumea in. Haumea is square her sun, her Sagittarius sun, and she
Mm-hmm.
tells stories with her songs. Every song is a story. It's very Sagittarius. And the sun is about energy, creativity, and she's got Haumea square it. She never
So,
stops working.
so you would say all the any aspects in the chart that Haumea touches, it just gives us more energy into creation.
Yeah,
Okay, but
absolutely.
that's for Sun.
Yeah,
Sun is also about creation.
yeah,
It's ruled by Leo, so that's even more amplified in her case. Okay,
yeah,
there to tell.
absolutely. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
sun's about her identity. And Taylor Swift, we know, she's always working and always creative output, always dropping new work, that type of thing. But another example as well, and this is in the article that I'm going to be uploading after this. If we think back to the very, very first test tube baby, I think it was back in the 80s or 70s, I can't remember. Louise Brown, the very first test tube baby, okay? If you look at her chart, she has a Virgo stellium in the 6th house, very clinical.
Mm-hmm.
She was conceived in a test tube. She has Haumea conjunct Venus and Mars. Venus and Mars in Virgo in the 6th house is sex in a
Wow.
test tube. It's sex in a
Absolutely.
laboratory, isn't it? And Haumea.
Medical child, yes, produced in a
Yeah,
medical way. Absolutely, you can't. And the
yeah.
house and Virgo, you can't escape. Yeah, and that's why I love astrology. Sometimes it's so
Literal.
right?
It's so literal,
Ritual.
absolutely. And she has Haumea in with that Mars and Venus. I'll come back to that in a minute because I'm going to talk more about the future with Haumea as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that gives you an idea, hopefully, of Haumea in the natal chart as well. Okay. But what about mundane astrology? You know?
Yes, I would, with all these climate changes and all this stuff, please tell us. I think it's very important these days. No wonder she was discovered, you know, in the midst of it all, right?
Yeah, and I do think when planets are discovered and start becoming integrated into the collective consciousness, they always come in at a particular moment. You know, when we think back to when Uranus was discovered, which was when Pluto was in Aquarius, wasn't it? And we had massive scientific revolution, you know?
Absolutely.
And of course, when Haumea and Maki were discovered, it was on the back of that horrendous tsunami, that, you know, a humanitarian disaster. And we can't necessarily link that to climate change, but it's the earth and it's the weather and it's a power, you know, beyond mankind to control. We can't control, you know, tsunamis or earthquakes, you know, but it's about the power of nature. And that's what Haumea and Maki Maki are about, the
Yeah, that's
power
right.
of
She
nature.
can create and she can destroy. Yeah, I'm just thinking about all these massive floods in Europe that are happening, and
Yeah, yeah.
my family's in Croatia. They had so many storms now. I'm just thinking, how all this
Oh,
is
yeah.
connected. I love
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
love how, yeah, I think it's a perfect, yeah, and I like how we can integrate it in our charts. This is very interesting. I'm going to now explore more,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much. I find it
Yeah.
very, very intriguing,
Yeah.
to be honest. Very.
And if we want to look at, I mean, that's the power of nature, which we don't have a huge amount of control over unless we're sort of stuffing loads
Yeah.
of stuff into the atmosphere. But Haumea was very prominent in the charts of Japan and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Haumea is
Oh,
really prominent, and that's in the article that I'm going to upload as well. And what was that? It was a man-made force, a man-made weapon of destruction. It was just, a bomb dropped from the sky which exploded and wiped those cities out in fiery destruction. Horrendous.
so I have to mention this now because everybody's talking about this Ukrainian and Russian thing, what's going on,
Yeah.
and the threat of nuclear bomb again. Do you feel like when you look at Haumea now, do you think it's going to happen? What's going to happen? Everybody's kind of thinking about it. Now that you mentioned nuclear bombs.
Actually, no, I write about this because, I said I wrap it around the Oppenheimer and the Trinity explosion theme. I don't think so. I think it's the threat. I think it's more the threat. And if you think to Oppenheimer, once that first nuclear bomb was detonated, life was never the same again. Because then we entered the Cold War when we had the threat of, nuclear war. It's the fear and the threat, which I think is stronger. So yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
But just quickly going back to climate change, I was sort of, we've got these awful wildfires in Greece, don't we? As well as other places. And I was looking at the chart of Greece. I was looking at the 1974 democratic chart, I think. Jupiter has recently trined the Greece Haumea. Of course, Jupiter helps things grow and helps things spread. And a trine, it just facilitates and eases the spread of all the fire. Canada, Jupiter's recently been conjunct the Canada Haumea. And they've got horrendous wildfires, and Mars is trying that.
Yes. The smoke was awful.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It went all down to New York, and it's about the air, being able to breathe the air, and Haumea is very connected with air and fire. And I said that Haumea, because she's at 28 Libra at the moment, she's on top of that nodal ingress. She's conjunct the South Node at the minute, and it's about the air. And that the nodes now, the air and fire, aren't they? And what are you seeing? Yeah.
About letting go, you have to. She's kind of destroying and old stuff. I'm thinking, South Node. What's not? I don't know, but she's cleaning up something for sure.
And I think she's highlighting something and pinpointing thing in the South Node. It's all the negative habits and all the negative potential that we have that we need to let go of. And we need to start treating the air and the earth in a better way. We can't just take it for granted and assume that everything's going to be fine. We need to be proactive and do something about it. And that's moving to the Aries North Node, because that's what, as a collective society, we need to be proactive now about climate change.
And we need to start doing things, not just talk about. This is the time to actually do it. Aries is all about go and hands on.
Yeah, and of course, Aries North Node, it is going to get something done. It is. It's so proactive. And if you think back to last weekend, we had a grand cross formed with that North Node, South Node, Pluto and the Sun. which was quite you know, a grand cross can often be full of crises and problems and difficulties, which of course we're seeing with all these wildfires and, you know, roads, people being evacuated on the island of Rhodes. It's horrendous. It is a crisis. But because that cardinal grand cross is cardinal, we will do something. We will find solutions. We will act. We will act.
It calls for action. Yeah, it calls us for action. You can't escape it. When you have squares, you have to deal with it. You have to do something, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I do think Haumea is very much about situations or creations that change the course of nature. Because of course, you know, the development of the nuclear bomb changed the course of mankind in many ways. But if we think what another important consideration with Haumea at the minute is, she's in a long-term square with Pluto. She's going to be square Pluto until about 2027. All right. She popped into Scorpio at the end of 2022. She's just bounced back into the late degrees of Libra. You know, she's kind of tracking Pluto bouncing back into the late degrees of Capricorn.
I think they're cleaning up together. I think they're finishing the job together now.
Oh, they are, definitely. Then Pluto's going back into Aquarius. Haumea is going to move into Scorpio until 2050. And
again,
then
square. Again, they're going to have the little square in the fixed signs, which is going to be
a square of air, Aquarius, and water. So I'll take you back to the beginning of this Haumea Pluto cycle, which began in the 1950s in Leo. Okay, so that's the last time Pluto and Haumea were conjunct in the 1950s. That's when we discovered the double helix of DNA. DNA, okay, is the stuff of life, isn't it? It's just the building blocks, the stuff of life. And when we're talking about Haumea here, she's, you know, the matriarch of life. She gives birth to all these babies from her body in the myth. But DNA, it's the mother tongue of life. It's the language of life. DNA is a code, a language, okay? And the 1950s is when genetics, our understanding of genetics really kind of took off. And that was the Pluto-Haumea conjunction.
And I'm thinking about it was Leo. Creation.
Life, creation. Absolutely. So what we're going to see now with this Pluto-Haumea square, we know Pluto in Aquarius, it's all going to be about artificial intelligence, all that sort of stuff, isn't it? That's just going to go crazy. But Haumea is going to be in Scorpio, and Scorpio is about life, death, sex, reproduction, right? We're going to see loads and loads of innovation around genetic engineering. Medical perspective as well, you know, gene therapy, you know, we're talking about gene therapy here, all of that type of thing. And artificial wombs, already in development, okay? Just imagine, you know, for all the women who can't conceive naturally or can't carry a baby naturally, an artificial womb gives them that potential. Okay,
that's amazing.
Yeah, but also think about artificial wombs, how it might reorganize society, because Pluto in Aquarius is about reorganizing society, the evolution of society. If women don't have to carry babies physically anymore, they can work more. Their role in society will change a little bit, you know, if they're not just sort of having to take time out to have kids, that type of thing. That can completely change masculine and feminine father-mother roles in society as well.
Which we all feel already happening with the same-sex marriages and all this, you know. Yeah. But I do feel trends of medicine, technology, and how this is gonna, you know, help the creation. I'm just thinking, you know, it can also prolong life. You know, I think humans will gonna live longer than we live today, for sure. In the next 20 years, I think with all this health, we're gonna be, 100 years is gonna be norm. Like I knew,
Oh,
like 20, I feel, right?
yeah, absolutely. And especially if we can start, eradicating or managing better diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's. We've seen all the developments with Alzheimer's. That's Pluto and Aquarius about the mind.
Absolutely.
And Haumea is that dynamo. We're going to have seen vast, rapid advancements in medical technology, reproductive technology, but also we've got to think about that human AI dynamic as well. We're all we're all attached to our phones. Our phones are extensions of our bodies. There's going to come a point where where does humans and AI merge, that type of thing.
Yeah, but we're gonna be able to figure it out. I mean, through history, we were able to figure it out. We have like how they replacement of a hip, even heart transplants. All these things they didn't exist 100 years ago. We kind of work with it. So I think we're gonna find a way to work with it. It's not gonna destroy us. I'm not one of those people. Oh, it's just a new thing that we're gonna find a way to work with it, just like we did with everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when we talk about transplants, I think it was just last year there was a man received a pig heart as a transplant.
Yes, I know, but it wasn't successful.
No,
I think it wasn't successful.
I think it did for a few weeks, that type of thing. Yeah. But what we end up seeing, I think, is perhaps that they're developing organs. They're going to grow organs in labs rather than take them from natural sources. Now
that you mentioned, I see Haumea actually speeding it all up. I like the way you said, because I now understand how she, on a global level, how can she, boost up creativity, and especially when she comes into Scorpio, I think it's going to be more. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just putting a picture together with what you told us today. It was amazing. Like I can see it now more clearly. Absolutely. And it's going to be part of our consciousness. Haumea is going to be, I always think about Chiron. Nobody knew about it before 77, right? But now I can't even think about looking at a chart without a Chiron. Like it's part of, right? So Haumea is going to be one of those. I feel that it's going to be part of.
Yeah, without a doubt. And we're so used to working with Pluto. Pluto is part of our go-to, isn't it? But there's another deeper evolutionary force working hand in hand with Pluto, and that's Haumea.
Beautiful.
And she really is. She fans the flames. She gives that extra fiery creation of life, and she's fanning all those evolutionary flames that we usually label with Pluto. So with all of these amazing, I don't think we can actually imagine all the innovations and what's going to be coming over the next few years. Haumea is there in the background, putting life into it and putting energy into it.
I'm just thinking, did you? So when she was in Leo, she did the genetic thing. But what happened when she was in Virgo? What happened then? I'm just thinking, did you take a look of generationally? But I'm thinking when she was in Libra, there was a creation of all these different types of relationships. Same sex and the transgenders. Everything kind of was creating. Like she was fastly. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. What happened when she was in Virgo?
So
anyway, if you don't know, it's fine.
No, it's a really interesting question. So Virgo, she was in Virgo 1958 until 1992. You would have seen massive innovations in health, health and medicine, which is a very, very Virgo thing. But if you think back in the 60s when the contraceptive pill was developed.
Oh, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We usually associate that with the Uranus-Pluto conjunction that we had in the 60s. But Haumea would have been there because she's always in a cycle with Pluto as well. So there would have very much been that going on in the background.
I like that. So she works with Pluto all the time, actually. I like that.
They're always in in a relationship, but their cycle is quite hard to track because of their elliptical orbits. Sometimes they come really close and then sort of bounce away, and they never quite conjoin. And then that's, you know, so it's a really irregular cycle to track. So it's a kind of, you know, just look at the conjunctions, the squares. I don't think they're opposite each other very much, because as well, the retrogrades, you know, one will be going forward, one's retrograde.
We have a question.
Yeah.
We have a question. It has retrograde periods, and for how long?
Oh, they're really irregular, and I'd have to sort of make a complete list.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can get back. Because that really, I should make a list.
It's okay. It's just a question. I think we just need to figure it out how it works for us in a chart.
Yeah.
And try to kind of bring it up in our consciousness. So there's a, you know, all the retrogrades are always introspective. So if you have it in your chart, you know, you can always, you know, apply what is retrograde, right?
You know, I was saying, you know, I've got Haumea square my Mercury, but she's been square my Mercury for probably a couple of years because she's retrograde at the minute. And of course, my book wasn't just written this month. You know, it's taken a while to write that. And then all of this content that I'm sort of busy getting out there, it's been on my list to do for ages. It's okay. This retrograde.
You're creating.
Yeah,
you're creating and you're putting it out there, so it's all good. I'm thinking, because I have Virgo, I'm late Virgo rising, so my Virgo is in the 12th house, so probably she's somewhere in the 12th house hidden. And I did have issues with actually giving birth, getting pregnant and other stuff. So I'm just thinking, you know, it's interesting. I have to take a look at the aspects, but very interesting. Yeah. At the end, I did it. Yeah, I did IVF at the end. I couldn't do it naturally. So I'm just thinking maybe.
That's Haumea and Virgo, absolutely. And
and it's in the 12th house. It was hidden. The creativity, you know, it's hidden in the 12th. Yeah, interesting.
And if we look back at that, you know, she was in Virgo 1958 to 1992. That's when, you know, that period, that's when IVF was starting to be developed and
that's about forward. That as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, families started getting smaller, didn't they? You know, if you think back to the 1800s, the early 1900s, families were big. Women, you know, had to have they used to have sort of 7, 8, 9, 10 children because the mortality rate was much higher. You know, women died.
No contraception.
Yeah.
No, there was no contraception. They every time they had sex, they actually had a baby. Like it was every year was a baby. Exactly. You know, 13, 15. You know. Yeah. It was really like that, right?
So, you know, Virgo, that period in Virgo is very much about sort of regulating and controlling, you know, the size of our families, how women have children. And of course, you know, the second half of the 20th century, you know, different forms of contraception were sort of being developed and, you know, innovated. So, yeah, absolutely. Haumea is literally related to fertility and, you know, childbirth in the chart, but metaphorically about all our other creative stuff.
And you mentioning that the artificial wounds now coming, I can see it. Like now, you know, artificial wounds. Wow. How do you pronounce it? How do you the womb? I have it's like one of those words I have issues with pronouncing. Yeah. So yeah, I can see that happening really, really soon. So yeah, I can see that. Very, very interesting.
They're already developing them, but there's lots of regulations around how long they can keep a fetus in them. But it will happen. It will. And for any of you, I don't know if you've read the book by Aldous Huxley. Oh God, what's it called? Brave New World. That's it. Brave New World. Okay.
Okay.
So that was written in the 1930s, and it's about a world where everyone is born in a pod, born in an artificial womb. There's no parents. Everyone is owned by everyone else. So everyone's owned by society. It's very Pluto Aquarius.
I was just going to say, this sounds like Pluto Aquarius to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And he wrote that in the 1930s. And here we are. Here we are. So,
New world is coming for sure. Absolutely. The way we function as humans in this, and with the, I just hope that we preserve nature and Earth, because it's a beautiful place, and I just hope we don't destroy it completely. That's my only kind of.
I don't think we will. I think we'll keep fighting for it, because that's another thing about that Aries North Node. It will fight for what it wants, won't it? It's Aries.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is going to be a fight. And we'll just, have to, I don't know, just keep talking about it as well. Keep the conversations alive with the, in the political circles, and I think what we can all do, we can all just take our own little bit of responsibility, and just do our own little bits, because it all adds up. It all adds up. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. I don't know. Did you want to mention anything else? I think this was such a beautiful lecture. I thank you so much from my heart. I learned so much. I'm going to research now more, because now I have to know, right? So this is amazing.
That's just quickly what I wanted to say is, how do we use Haumea with transits and progressions and that type of thing?
Oh, yes, please. Oh, yeah. The forecasting.
Obviously,
okay, go, please.
Natal Haumea, you wouldn't use the progressions because she's so slow. It's like Pluto. You don't use progressed Pluto, okay? But use progressions and solar arcs from other planets to your natal Haumea, because they're going to trigger what Haumea means in your chart, and look at transits from Haumea. She is very slow moving, so you have to treat her like Pluto, like an outer planet, a slower moving planet. But one important thing is, I use the same orbs as I would use for Pluto. So I use an orb of 8 degrees in the natal chart for Haumea. And when I'm looking at, transits, it's a couple of degrees orb. Definitely treat Haumea like you would treat Pluto or Uranus, for example.
Makes sense. And you can try testing. I always test with the moon.
Yeah.
So every month, you can always test what's happening, because moon will activate it, So, yeah. Oh, the storm is here. Cool. Amazing. Did you want to mention Makemake, or just a little bit more or we're going to leave it for another one? Or we're going to leave it for another live?
For another one, but I've given you a taster over on our website. We'll save that for another time, because it's same but different. Okay. Well, thank you very much. This was so good. I hope you're going to have a workshop or something. I know you wrote an article, but if you have any workshops or anything that we can actually, or we're going to have a lecture somewhere, let us know, please, because this is so interesting. I certainly can do, but what I was planning later this year, because I work with Juno a lot. I love Juno, and I've done loads of Juno, and I was planning on a Juno workshop. But there's no reason why I couldn't do a dwarf planet workshop, Haumea and Makemake as well. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful, and I think it's important that we bring it into our consciousness more. I'm going to talk about it as well. I'm going to now incorporate, I'm going to test it and incorporate it in my work, just because this is how we keep the thing, going. We have to talk about it, as you said. We have to, and now I'm thinking Aries North Node. You didn't, this all came for a reason, and I'm going to use this more and test it with my clients as well, and my family. I'm going to see, for first the family and friends and the clients as well, to see how it goes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lianne. This was beyond my expectations. Really, really, you blow my mind. See all this nice thoughts from the chat as well. Thank you. I hope to see one of those Mayo, you have weekly, you have every week. Those monthly forecasts. I love those. Yeah.
So I do them all the time. And actually, I'm talking at the Astrological Association conference this year in October about Pluto and Haumea, and all those medical things we've just been talking about. That's my thing in October.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, I think we should raise the consciousness about this because
Yeah,
it's important, very
yeah.
important. Thank you very much. I'm gonna save the video for other people
No
as well. Have
problem.
a good day, and
Thank you.
thank you again.
Take care.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.